My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching in real estate. And today we're going to be talking about the small but mighty real estate market, which is Eagle River, Alaska. This is a section of the market that is very popular these days because it provides a lot of people an option that's an easy commute to Anchorage while still providing a whole lot of conveniences for those that are looking for that's going to be really close and simple for them to get to. Before we get started though, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And let's go and jump into today's market update, looking at the residential, the condo, and the multifamily market at the end of the video to kind of give you a summary of everything that we talked about. Now, the first thing that I want to look at is the number of properties that are available on the market on the residential side. So usually this time of year, we're going to see about 150, 180, maybe up to 200 properties that are available. Right now we're seeing there are 53, and the year before for the month of August it was actually 87. So we're seeing a pretty sizable cut in the inventory, not just year over year but also historically. Now the next thing we're going to look at is what's going on for the number of properties that have actually being bought and sold on the residential single family home side in Eagle River. And if your guess was that there's been kind of a drop, you would be correct. This time last year there were 76 homes that were bought and sold. This year it's 41. You get to a certain point where you can only cut the inventory so much before it starts showing up in the number of properties that have actually bought and sold. And you kind of see this trend really for the entire year. Yeah, really every month of the year. We have not seen a single month where we sold the same number of properties in Eagle River that we did the year before, or more than, for that matter. So it's pretty much the trend that there are less properties in Eagle River being sold than there was before, but there's also less available. So it's kind of a wash there. The average sold price, which I'm sure everybody really is the reason they actually clicked on the video and wanted to hear today's market update, has gone up because the average sold price this time last year was about $468,000. Now it is about $505,000, which is a 7.8% increase for the average sold price. Not a huge surprise because Eagle River, even though there's not a whole lot available, there is still going to be a high demand for properties in this area. So even the stuff that's not in perfect turnkey condition, it's still able to sell, and we're still seeing inventory moving. And the inventory that is selling, it is going at a higher price than it did before, even though there's less competition, less buyers going out there and searching for homes than there were a couple of years ago when the interest rates were really low. We're also seeing less inventory, so it's really kind of more or less like proportionally stayed in step with each other between the supply and the demand. Just to give you an idea by how much it's increased, this time year to date, back in 2019, before COVID and everything happened, was 380,000, and now it's 505,000. That is by how much it's increased over just a couple of years. And I'm really not expecting to see this go away anytime soon. Anyone that's telling you that, oh, the market's about to crash, it can't keep doing this, blah, blah, blah. It absolutely can, and it will continue doing that because that is just basic supply and demand that we're seeing at the moment. I mean, I guess no one has a crystal ball, unless another pandemic is thrown at us or another world-shattering event. But right now, the theory, the data we have in front of us is I would not expect to see a crash happen anytime in the near future because there's no justification for that theory. Now, we can talk about other parts of the economic system, and yes, I totally agree, but for right now, just looking at this stuff, I'm not seeing anything that would make me think there would be any kind of a collapse. And I come on a little forceful on this topic because I know some of you are out there reading all these articles from people that have never actually bought or sold any real estate, just throwing out theories. And some of you won't go purchase something because you're afraid of, well, what happens if the market collapses? And then I'm stuck holding the bag and all this other stuff. And the fact of the matter is, people that were saying don't do that, like just wait till the market collapses, they were saying that back in 2020 when the average sold price was 390. And now it's 505, okay? Just, you've heard enough, people. Stop. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Let's move on to the condo market. Now, condos are not a particularly big part of the overall market in Eagle River, but it is something I'm really expecting to see increasing over the coming years. And so for that reason, we really do want to talk about it, even though the numbers aren't particularly splashy and there's not a whole lot of inventory one way or the other. So with that being the case, this time last year, there were 7 condos available. This year, there are 4. For the number of condos that have actually sold this time last year, we had 10, and this year there are 6. So kind of keeping the same trends as what we saw on the single family homes. Last but not least, we see the average sold price went from about $296,000 this time last year to about $304,000 this year. So seeing a pretty minor increase for the average sold price for condos, and I suspect it's probably by more than that because that's only about a 2.3% increase for the average sold price. I suspect it's more than that if we look at what you could have gotten for a condo this time last year compared to what you could get for the same condo in the same condition this year. But because we're looking at a small sample size, it's kind of hard to extrapolate that. Just anecdotally, I've kind of been looking at the condo market in Eagle River, and I have seen that the same units are going for more this year than they would have for the previous year. Let's take a break real quick here for those of you who are new to Alaska or just looking for an opportunity to kind of plug into a group and socially interact with people. We're actually hosting a monthly meetup for those of you who are in the area. And that is a Facebook group, and every month we'll go out and do something that's pretty low-key, like a hike or a bonfire, stuff like that. And if that's something you'd like to really plug in to really kind of get a sense of community, then this would be a great opportunity for you to go ahead and do so. The link to the Facebook group is going to be down below. And by the way, if you're also considering moving to Alaska, feel free to check out my podcast, the Alaskan Journey podcast. The link for that is going to be in the description section down below. Now, let's go and finish up today's market update, looking at the multifamily market and also kind of pulling it all together in a summary for you. All right, multifamily. This time last year, there were 3 multifamily properties available. Now there are 2 that are available. Not a whole lot, but you know what? I'll take it because for a good portion of the year, we had 1 or 0. So there you go. You've got some options now. This time last year, there were 2 multifamily properties that closed, and this year there are 1. Not a big surprise there. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the average sold price if we're looking at just the multifamily. So this time last year, there was about $606,000, and this year, the average sold price, and now we're looking at about $473,333, which is about a 22% decrease in the average sold price. The issue I always have with looking at average sold prices when we're looking at multifamily is it includes everything from the little duplex all the way up to like some commercial 30-plex property. So for that reason, it really incorporates a lot. And once we start looking at a smaller sample size, like it's like 1 or a 3 or 4 multifamily properties, not a whole lot is available in Eagle River because it's a highly desirable area if you're an investor because the cap rate is pretty low. And usually you're not going to have a whole lot of drama that goes along with Eagle River. And for that reason, yeah, it's going to be pretty desirable. And for that reason, a whole lot of people who currently own those properties are not wanting to let go of them. Why would you? Especially if we're in a time of inflation and rents are just going up and up and up, and your mortgage rate is staying the same. Now, your taxes are continuing to go up, which is another source of a joy, I think, for any landlord out there. Every time we pass a new bond, then guess what? Guess whose taxes are going up? So, yes, it is a desirable area as an investor, and it doesn't surprise me that we're not seeing a whole lot of available that's there. With the interest rates being what they are, it does make it kind of tough for a lot of these properties to pencil out right now. So if you currently have a property in Eagle River, it might be a good idea to focus more on just improving what you have than it is getting into a new property. Now, you can still acquire properties and still make them cash flow and still make it work. I would just say right at the moment, it's very tough to make things cash flow when we're at a higher interest rate. So you kind of have to pick your battles a little carefully and just make sure that you're playing the strategy that you want to play as far as investments go. Now, let's go and talk about a summary on the residential side. If you are a seller, it's great news for you in Eagle River because, like I said, the demand is still pretty high. And we are, in fact, still seeing a lot of interest in Eagle River just because it is a smaller market. And a lot of people still do want to move here for the conveniences and everything else that Eagle River has to offer. That being said, though, if you are a seller, that does not mean you can just ask for anything and not do any work. You're still going to have to go in and do some work to it. This isn't 2020, so it's not quite that level of intensity, but it's still strongly a seller's market. Now, if you're a buyer, I know this all sounds really intimidating and it sounds like the sky's falling and it sounds like you should totally just give up and just hope for the best, really, and just stay wherever you're at and hunker down. I do not recommend doing that unless it does make sense for what it is you're wanting to do. I would not recommend just making decisions based off theories that people are throwing out there. If it makes sense for you and your family and you can financially do it, it makes sense for you to do it right now, and just don't listen to a lot of these people out here. Most of them don't actually own real estate, and they really do bug me when they start throwing out their opinions on when you shouldn't do stuff, because like I showed in the average sold price, it has gone up and up and up, and people actually listened to these jokers a couple of years ago and decided to wait for the crash, and they're in a much worse position now. It's not just they missed out on like over $100,000 worth of appreciation across the board, but now they're having to actually overcome the average sold price increase when they're trying to go and purchase, and all that competition isn't there. And for those that are like, well, we'll just wait till the interest rates come down, what do you think is going to happen when the interest rates come down? Okay, you're going to have a small inventory pool still, because unless it comes down to like that 3 or 2% interest rates like what we had again, it's not likely to shake a lot of these sellers loose from the properties they have with those low interest rates. But it will make all these buyers who are on the fence waiting come out of the woodworks, and suddenly you've got the high prices, the inflation, and the low inventory, and a ton of competition, at which point everything just shoots through the roof. Okay, so jump in when it makes sense for you financially and for your family. Ignore everything else. Okay, we'll make everything work in its due time. So this has been your market update. I'm sorry, this one kind of turned more into me just getting up on my soapbox, but you can imagine I get a little heated on this when I see the results and consequences from people actually listening to bad advice that they just hear and take to heart. So forgive me, but yeah, that's why you're seeing the soapbox today. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any questions. We'll talk with you later.